Today, we're going to be speedrunning Minecraft, but not in the traditional sense. Our mission today is to basically go on a Gordon Ramsay culinary adventure and eat every single food that Minecraft has to offer, which means from rotten flesh to an enchanted golden apple, we have about 40 items that we need to eat all across different caves, biomes, and dimensions. There's only one rule I set for myself for this challenge, and that is no villager trading. The only thing I'm able to take from a village is beetroots, because they're rare, and any beds that are in the area. With that out of the way, we can finally get started with our run. Obviously, our very first step before we do anything is to give our world a good name. After a couple of resets to try and get a good seed,
Jesus horse.
we finally stumble across a jungle spawn. This is good for multiple reasons. For one, this biome is quite rare and it contains valuable food items like cocoa beans and, more importantly, melons, which we can easily check off our list. So, our first step naturally is to cause deforestation to our nearby surroundings, followed by stripping the jungle of its valuable resources like cocoa beans, which once we get some wheat will allow us to bake some cookies. After crafting some basic tools and harvesting fossil fuels, I'm able to find a melon, which finally gets us on the board with our first food item. One down, like 39 more to go. Shortly after, I found a zombie and I decided I would harass him solely for his flesh, which checks off another edible item off the list. In this speedrun, I decided to divide the items into two categories: hard items to obtain like golden apples and chorus fruit, and easy items like raw and cooked meat. The reason why I mention this right now is because we have a chance to obtain a hard item right off the bat: glowberries. After the skeleton tragically exploded on impact, I was able to take his bones to craft some bone meal and head further down this cavern until I was able to find a lush cave, thus allowing me to obtain these berries, which by the way are a complete scam because they don't even make you glow when you eat them. Anyway, at the current moment I need a lot of iron because we're going to need sufficient armor for tackling the Nether. So after gathering what felt like enough, I decided it was finally time to get a move on and get situated for the Nether. Since we're right next to an ocean, I figured this was the perfect opportunity to find more food to check off the list like salmon or cod. So, after getting my ankles completely broken by this fish, I was able to kill 2 salmon, one of which we're going to save for our smoker, and with that we can check off raw salmon from our list. We'll make the cooked variant afterwards, but for now let's just focus on exploring a little bit to try and find a lava pool. Because we're traveling in water, we also have the advantage of getting important loot from shipwrecks. So as we sail across this ocean, I was able to open up a few chests, some of which gave me nothing of value, but more importantly, I was able to find tropical fish, and additionally, cod. As I was sailing, I ended up finding this coral reef area that came with a lot of really loot-rich sunken ships that had a few food items that I could check off the list. Unfortunately though...
No!
Yeah, I died, and I'm immediately reminded about why I'll never be a top speedrunner in the world. So anyway, now we have a little side quest first, to obtain all of our stuff back, and then we can focus on eating the rest of the food items. Fortunately for me, I have next level navigation skills. As such, finding where I died was a piece of cake. So now that we're back in the jungle, I just murdered 2 chickens and sailed my way back to where I died, where I retrieved my stuff and got some other goodies that'll help us later on during this run. Eventually, after sailing for what felt like eons, I'd finally found land at this little plains biome. Here, to make sure I don't really die, I needed to make a renewable food source, so I crafted some bread, which checks off bread from our list. After yoinking a pumpkin, which we'll need for a pumpkin pie later, I found some mushrooms which we'll need to harvest to craft some stew. I needed a home base area to sort of craft all the food I'd gathered, so I figured a plains biome would be the best course of action, as we can also find other livestock in this area. And the situation here could not be more perfect, as I was able to find some cows and other animals. So after eating some suspicious stew, I completely demolished the cow population. What's more, I was able to find a lava pool and a village in close proximity of each other. So I figured here was where I was going to set up my little base. Now we can finally get a lot of food items out the way, so get ready for a marathon. We can finally take off tropical fish, drugs, I mean spider eye, steak, proceeded to steal exactly 1 beetroot seed, ate some cooked salmon, proceeded to cause 3rd-degree burns on myself to make myself more hungry, mushroom stew, now have a drugged potato, a regular potato, and a cooked potato, get excited for getting a carrot, pumpkin pie, a cake, cookies, ate some raw variants of some food, and finish it off with a little bit of dried kelp and cooked meat. So after that absolute Thanksgiving feast, I only had about 14 food items remaining, which seems pretty easy, but it only gets harder from here. At this point, I've eaten pretty much all the food that you can eat in the overworld, so now we can finally enter the Nether. Now you may be saying, Krog, there's no delicacies in the Nether. But what we need from the Nether is a stepping stone for getting to the end, so all we really need from here is blaze rods and ender pearls to craft Eyes of Ender. Of course, naturally, we get the worst biome possible, but it's okay because I'm an absolute speedrunning expert. Nether fortresses will typically spawn 200 to 400 blocks north of your Nether portal, so I headed towards the north of my spawn. I saw an Enderman, so you know what that means. I kept walking north, and I may have gotten a little too greedy trying to kill this Enderman because... yeah, I died again. Look, in my defense, I didn't see the gaping hole behind me. So, after a walk of shame back to where I died, and getting my vengeance on that Enderman that killed me, I turned up my render distance and saw the fortress in the distance. Thankfully, it was right next to a warped forest where Endermen commonly spawn, so I could easily get the Ender Pearls as soon as I was ready. I bridged my way over to the fortress and started looking for the spawner. Once I found it, it was pretty simple from here on out, just combo the blazes until I had enough of their rods. My first instinct, as soon as I was done, was to get the heck out of here, which I promptly did until I was back at my warped forest. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what will Krog do here? Either A, ask you to subscribe, B, fix my god-awful upload schedule, C, quit speedrunning altogether, or D, get brutally harassed by Endermen. The answer is none of the above, as I begin to massacre the local Enderman population. 14 Ender Pearls sounded about sufficient to me, so all we had to do now was get home and complete the rest of the food items. So after I got back home, we had enough bone meal to harvest some carrots, so that can be checked off our list, along with golden carrots. With this bone meal, I can also farm up some more beetroots, which allow us to make beetroot stew. With the remaining gold from our golden carrot, we can now actually craft a golden apple, so that's another item off of the hard list that's complete. After checking off mutton and cooked mutton, which were pretty easy to find, it was now time to focus on another kind of weird food item, being a pufferfish. It's not very good nutritionally, and it's basically the most worthless thing you can eat in the game, so that's all the more reason to eat it, so we can now cross it off our list. With pufferfish done, we've only got about 6 more items to go, so we're almost there, except that these items get harder and harder to get. So for our next delicacy, we're gonna have to book a first class ticket to the end, where we can kill the Ender Dragon and eat some chorus fruit. So I crafted my Eyes of Ender and dripped myself out in the finest armor. So now it's time for a little bit of a lengthy road trip in which along the way I was able to get cooked rabbit. After digging down for what felt like ages, we were finally able to get down to the Stronghold. So it's finally time to enter. After setting my spawn and praying the Ender Dragon doesn't launch me 700 feet into the void, it was go time. I only had about 10 arrows, so I was pretty limited in how I could eliminate the towers, but eventually I was able to bridge over to the island, destroy the towers, a few of which with my own hands, and after I comboed the ever-living hell out of the Ender Dragon, I proceeded to become J. Robert Oppenheimer and explode a bed in her face, which finally defeated the Ender Dragon for good, meaning that a portal to the End Islands was now open. Even though I can't eat the dragon egg, I decided to take her egg, I guess for the extra protein, and then made my way to the End Islands, where I broke one stalk and took it to the Overworld to eat so I don't end up getting killed. Now that we're in the Overworld, my next goal is to get a bottle of honey, which was good because along my way to the Stronghold, I had actually found a couple of beehives that looked just about ready to deliver some honey. So, as I was waiting, I decided to smelt some sand and then monitor the honey level of those beehives, and eventually, after a while, I was able to immediately yoink their hard labor just as they were finished, which officially checks off honey bottle from our list. Now, this is kind of where the speed gets taken out of the run, because prior to this, my luck wasn't so bad, but here, everything just decided to get magically harder. Like, for example, I ended up searching like 40 minutes for a shipwreck and buried treasure for an enchanted golden apple, only to realize that they don't spawn in here in the first place. And if this tells you anything, it's that I don't nearly touch grass enough. At least I was able to complete rabbit stew along the way, so it wasn't a complete waste, but it was enough to eventually get me just roaming around in a spruce forest and potentially setting it on fire until I found some sweet berries that I can also check off the list. Now that my head was a little bit clear after finding those sweet berries, I decided it was time to tackle the enchanted golden apple again. So I figured that the best way I could probably find it is to go to a ruined portal and maybe try and find it there, but even then the spawn rate is really low. I'm talking between 1 to 4% on every single chest. So now came the most annoying part, sailing until I found a ruined portal, check the chest, rinse, and repeat. And at this point I had already found 6 diamonds from chests and over a stack and a half of iron, but no golden apple. After a few more ruined portals, and after what I estimated to be about like 20 ruined portal chests open, I found myself in a snow biome, running kinda low on food, but it's like 2 AM at this point and my brain was just fried, and I wanted to just get this challenge over with, so I kept searching. I would look in chests, and I would end up crying if it didn't contain an enchanted golden apple, until finally, I'd found it. All it took was a few eons of searching, and now I can finally cross one of the most difficult items, an enchanted golden apple, off the list. But I've been keeping a secret from you guys. There's actually one more item in the game that's the most difficult to find. An apple. After these zombies tried assassinating me, keyword, tried, I was finally able to eat the last item to complete this challenge, officially making me the fattest Minecraft speedrunner alive, all in a record-shattering time of 5 hours, 33 minutes, and 22 seconds.